Just where do we even start? Okay. Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and Monica's here. Yay! Which is a little bit of a weird thing to say considering we're in your house, but...
Well, I do the same thing.
So today we are going to talk about Con Man, which we just finished watching. I had seen it once previously, and then I told Monica that she would be interested in watching it. For reasons we'll get into really soon. Unfortunately, the interest being, it's terrible. It's actually terrible. So when the Kickstarter started for this April of last year, I was super excited. I thought the concept was really interesting. I think you had the same, like...
Yeah, well, it was like trending everywhere.
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk back together again.
Yeah, exactly. So, I was super excited for it. So, as soon as I found out it was a Kickstarter, I was like, here, have some money. I want this to be a thing. And now I kind of wish I didn't. But it's not like my money would have made this not happen. We'll go with the 3 biggest reasons why we didn't like this, because we could nitpick every single episode. I even wrote down notes on every single episode about why it was terrible.
I was just exasperated every episode.
Let's talk first about the ableism in Con Man.
Blatant ableism. It was interesting because it was almost right away in this series. The first scene in the first episode was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was convention humor, whatever. And then they decided to roll with this joke throughout many of the episodes that they were making a play on the word retarded,
giving it the original connotation, with the etymology of the word.
Yeah, so they kept just saying you're retarding me. This is so unnecessary.
Okay, we get it. That sounds like a word that you're not supposed to use, and it's funny that you're using it. But if you were to use this exact same joke but be using the word gay as in you're happy, it would be shut down so fast.
Yeah,
very
one
fast.
thinks that's funny anymore.
Yeah, and how that joke spanned I think 5 episodes.
Yeah, it was just they thought it was the most clever thing, and then the whole joke kind of escalates when the character that Alan Tudyk plays, I don't even remember his name because I don't even care.
Yeah,
Ray Nearly.
Yeah.
When he's speaking in front of a crowd. And then people in the audience who are visibly disabled. So there's one girl who's in a wheelchair, and then there's another person with another walker, and just people that you could tell they were making a point that they were in some way disabled in some way. And then they start kind of resisting the fact that he's using this terminology and then end up chasing him. It's just questionable, the whole use of these folks as almost props in their joke, which we were talking about as complex because we wanted to know what they thought about the joke.
Yeah.
And it was just completely unnecessary. And the only representation that they got in the entire thing was chasing this guy for making a really ridiculous joke.
Yeah, and even within that group, if you had to pay attention really hard to hear it, but there was one woman who was on a scooter, and she had a throwaway line as they were chasing him, something to the effect of, I don't even need this scooter, these shoes just really hurt my feet. Which I was just why would you make a comment like that? Which is another layer of ableism. People sometimes look at people and that person's young, they probably don't even need that scooter. And that bothers me so much.
It's really bad. Or just even the idea of someone having an amount of mobility and also having a chair, also having a scooter. We have to break down those stereotypes because not every person can't move at all. There's different levels of ability. So there's the whole thing was just so bad. It was mind-boggling because it's been a long time since I've watched something that's so blatantly missing the point, or even trying to miss the point.
Yeah, because it was actively trying to miss the point on...
Just look, we're bad people.
Yeah, let's keep misusing this word. Yes, we're technically using the original format of it, but we know people are going to be upset about it, and let's keep using it, because that's a good idea.
Yeah. There was a lot of use of the term crazy, and a lot of depictions of what they deemed as craziness. So a woman who was part of a doll convention, and so she was carrying on a doll who she believed was her daughter, and there was a whole kind of storyline with that and how she had like lost her son previously. It's clear that like maybe not that exact kind of convention, but something similar could be kind of talked about. She was going to a therapist and working through her loss, which of course you find out later is just a throwaway loss, and it wasn't kind of as true as they depicted it. But it was also like ableism in matters of mental health as well. Like, haha, your mental illness is so funny. Let's just pick fun at it, even though it might seem like very different from what we might see portrayed of mental illness, but it's still like,
it was still a laugh line as opposed to like a learning moment or a understanding people complexly type of moment. So, in addition to this being very, very ableist, it was also incredibly racist, transphobic, and fatphobic. So we're just going to combine those for the interest of having just 3 talking points in the whole thing. Otherwise this video will go forever. Where do you want to start?
Well, it was very clear from almost the get-go that there was basically no representation of people of color in this show, and if there were, then they were very stereotypical, or they happened to be 2 black men talking about racism, as if like that's the only thing that people of color do on screen is talk about racism, which I found very problematic.
Yeah, definitely. And that whole sequence seemed to be making fun of diversity panels. Like, incredibly. Exactly. Like, even the name of whatever that diversity panel is supposed to be, it sounded like a ridiculous thing that you would never name a panel.
Of course, there was, like, some making fun of whitewashing, as this character voices... What was the character's name? Rigmarole. So he puts on a very stereotypical black voice and is the voice of this character. So that's kind of the whole like misunderstanding in that scene, is that he's on this panel and doesn't realize that it's a panel talking about racism. So it's like, again, putting the focus on the straight white guy and not actually listening to the real concerns of these 2 men. And of course it's 2 men also. There's no women of color who are speaking about their experiences. And then it all kind of comes to an end point when one black guy decides that the voice is okay. So it ends on that note of like, if one black guy says it's okay, then I guess it's okay.
This one black guy said it's fine, so it's fine. There's even a line as he's being taken out of that room and he thinks like somebody's going to beat him up for being incredibly racist, where he's like, I'm not racist, I dated a black girl, and I'm just face palm so hard.
It's one of those shows where you could almost think that they're saying these ridiculous things because they're trying to bring light to it, but then you realize it's not smart enough for that. So that's some of the racism. I mean, there's also many kind of throwaway characters within this show that are all racialized others. Yeah. So there's like an Asian man who doesn't even speak but is like, oh, he's come over to make me sushi. Or there's like the help, which are 2
Mexican gardeners.
Yeah, exactly. So more stereotypes. And it's really sad because it's really sad.
There was one character where if they were a person of color, it didn't play into anything that they were doing, and it was the guy that made the action figure. Because with Gina Torres' character, it was almost that, and then Alan Tudyk's character brings out the rigmarole voice, and she asks him to leave because that's inappropriate as fuck. And I don't think they were trying to be transphobic when they brought that in, but okay, so the background of this is both people judging a cosplay contest that Rainey Lee's also on see Bobby as this Japanese schoolgirl, which I don't think the character actually exists, but we haven't looked it up, so we could be completely wrong. It could be an actual character from an anime.
Yeah. But very like stylized as like the Asian girl. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, so one is Leslie Jordan and the other is Sean Mayer. Is that what you
Sean Mayer?
Meyer. So Leslie's like, that's a beautiful woman, and Sean's like, that's a beautiful man. And for some reason, his character, once he's corrected on the gender of this person, decides that that's not just a woman, that is a transgendered person, and then gets on the high horse of like, what have you ever had to do that's so courageous as be yourself and transgendered? But the thing about this is, he becomes attracted to the Bobby character and says, I'm attracted to who you are really inside, which in his mind is a dude, because he thinks that this person used to identify as male and is now identifying as female, and is ignoring the fact that this person is female and being like, well, I'm a gay dude and I'm attracted to you, so you must still be a man inside. And it's so problematic.
Yeah, it's just like reinforcing the idea that, you know, if you're a person who's transitioning, you started as one thing and you ended up as another, and that's like a really problematic way to look at trans folks in all their diversity and all of their different, you know, identities. So it's just reinforcing that is so damaging and problematic, especially when it's played by entirely cis actors. Like, there was no openly trans characters in this show, and so why is it something that cis folks are thinking that they have the authority to be talking about?
It feels like it was just like, oh, this is a hot topic nowadays, we have to make sure to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not if you're gonna do it in a problematic way, you don't.
Also that, like, thinking that sexuality and gender are inherently tied together as well. So, like, how a lot of folks think, especially in, like, the acronym LGBT, you know, being gay and being trans are completely different things, and you can be both or neither or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not inherently linked. So that was problematic as well.
So there was one character who was in Spectrum, which is the original TV show that Con Man centers around, who was very thin in the show and is now less so in this, and there was a whole lot of just...
She can't fit her costume anymore.
Yeah,
like, oh, her self-worth has gone down because she's trying to lose weight and whatever. And it's one of the only Asian characters in this show. It's an Asian woman. Mm-hmm. I forget the actor's name, but she's a fantastic actor. But it's just like, why do you have to continually other the others? You know, like, the choice is very deliberate. Or like, one of the only racialized people in the cast were also going to put this as well, and like putting her in like a literal like chin fat suit kind of thing, and making her bigger in her original costume or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all of these things just didn't seem necessary.
None of the rest of the cast really had people of size. The only time that something like this gets away with having bigger people is like the Marine Marion, and that's explained away because he's strong and he's a Marine.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's never allowed to be like bigger women without there being some joke about it.
It's really disheartening.
Yeah.
Like, I hope you all know that we wanted to love this.
Oh, I wanted to love this so hard. When I was originally watching it, I was watching it with a friend of mine, and he tapped out after the 4th episode. He was like, I cannot watch this anymore. I'm like, I don't really want to watch it anymore either, but I want to continue it to say that I've continued it and to be able to talk about it fully.
So we can make this video.
Pretty much.
That's the only reason I watch it.
Because outside of, like, the opening scene, it's problematic, occasionally a good thing.
Yeah,
or something
good joke.
Yeah, something good, or like one good point. For example, one good point would have been when he was talking about, there's a character who was in Spectrum, the actress is named Tiffany, and she was like 10 years old when Spectrum was on, so she's about 20 years old now. And just talking about, like, people were calling her like a whore and like a dirty slut and that type of thing, and he makes the point of, no, she's just a girl that grew up in the spotlight and because of that made some really poor choices. And that's a good point, but it was such a throwaway point. And then, like,
in like one of the last episodes too.
Yeah, exactly. So like you had to really dig to find all of the good things that were in this, because there were a lot of things that, and I guess we can move on to the missed opportunities that we have in this, but there were a lot of interesting points that were brought up, but they were always brought up in such a throwaway way. So like he was like, sci-fi fans, like sci-fi is supposed to be about the future. Why are they all stuck in the past? That is an interesting thing. If you had made a whole episode kind of around that thing instead of that just being one thing that Ray says in his infinite wisdom, like that would have been great.
Yeah, exactly. Or like this, because this was like a self-produced show that was crowdfunded, like Kathy put money towards this, like money. First off, you have an obligation to those people that have funded it to accurately represent them. I mean, the amount of people who were women in this show that had good characters were next to nothing.
Yeah,
and that was such a missed opportunity, because why not? Like, there's no reason not to have women as just props. Like,
yeah.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah, they were used as props many, many times, and I think the only time that they really weren't was like Felicia Day's character was actually funny. The having to poop the whole time and like having to like be on, and then once you're off stage you go back to pooping. Like, that was funny and that was really good, and her impersonation of Praying Healy was really funny, and there were a lot of good gags with that character. Like, she always knew what he was wearing and would show up wearing the same thing, and that was just funny sight gags. We wanted to see a lot more of the actual Spectrum world because that was so immersive.
Yeah. See, I mean, we were talking about, like, where did the money go? And then we saw some of the last animation episodes, and we're like, oh, that's where it went. Because it was some pretty beautiful animation at the end. Mm-hmm. And we were speculating that maybe if they're continuing this, that's where they're going to go and make the movie that they're all talking about. But that's really the only thing that was worth watching. Like, when people funded for this, they wanted to see Nathan Fillion and Alan Tudyk in a ship. Yeah. Doing their thing, and those scenes were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, if that had been more of it, or like each episode was like an episode that they did and then like juxtaposed to what he's doing now.
Yeah.
Like, what a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, that would have been much more compelling to see kind of the parallels between this show that you did 10 years ago and what your life is now.
Exactly, because every episode has a theme.
Yeah.
But maybe they like didn't really think that far in the actual episodes.
I was so excited about this because I knew there were going to be so many cameos, just like people that I was interested in seeing, even doing a small thing. Like, I kind of lost track of like all the interesting people that had like little one-liners or just showed up for a second. You're like, oh, it's that guy. Yeah, like that was stuff that I was super excited for, and even that didn't make me like overshadow all the bad things.
Yeah. And I feel like the greatest missed opportunity in this entire series was the fact that there is already humor in convention life. Oh, yeah. And they didn't really rely on that. It's like, the name is Con Man.
Yeah.
But they didn't really rely as much on actual convention things that happened. They did a little bit, but then they strayed away and had all these weird plot points that no one liked. They weren't good at all. No. And like, that's a huge opportunity to actually showcase what a convention is like in its negatives and its positives.
Yeah.
This character was negative in almost everything. He was so unlikable. Like, it wasn't fun to watch him. But if we had seen the like hills and valleys of what it feels like to be a celebrity at a convention,
like what had made him so disenfranchised from the con life,
exactly,
in general,
having bad experiences like flashbacks, or you know, like what's coming next, like, because it makes sense, the whole idea behind an actor being stuck in a role and wanting to do more, but being stuck in going to conventions, which is pretty much what like all the Firefly casts do now. Mm-hmm. But it's still like a very privileged view of going to these conventions, like, ugh, another one.
I wish it hadn't relied so heavily on that type of thing. And like in the beginning, it tried to give him a little bit of the, no, like I actually like the fans, but you didn't really believe him when he said it.
I didn't believe it.
No.
Because he was never interested in talking with them. And it makes sense after 10 years, but that's kind of what happens. Like, you talk to anyone who's played something like Harry Potter, anything huge.
Yeah, they're going to want to talk about what their current situation is, and that's the thing with Ray's character. Like, he wasn't getting any current work, or any current work that he deemed appropriate. Like, there's the whole thing about him being in that video game as a voiceover actor, and he was just like, you know, I originally I thought like this was beneath me, but this is kind of fun. And then he's given what he considers the shittier lines, and he just kind of like has a tantrum about it, basically.
Yeah. He's like, I'm better than this.
I'm way better than this and I shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, well, it's good paying work and you're having a fun time and you're getting paid to do something that I'm sure a lot of people would love to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, voiceover acting in a video game sounds amazing.
Sounds so cool. And it's like Alan Tudyk does that now.
Yeah.
So I don't understand what kind of point he was making. Like, if I could sum up the entire series, every episode tried to have maybe like 3 main points, and they all failed so badly. They just like crashed into the ground, exploded, and then said some ableist and racist and sexist stuff all over. We didn't watch any of the like, there's bloopers and behind the scenes, we didn't watch any of that. But I am suspecting that that would probably be the best part of the entire thing. Just watching people laugh.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, because I'm sure they had an amazing time making this thing, and that's kind of a little bit of what the project was about too, was getting people back together and talking about things that you've done previously and making this new thing that kind of pokes and jabs and makes fun of previous work that you've all done together.
Yeah.
So I'm sure making this was a great experience. Watching it was not as good an experience.
It was neat to see all of the cameo actors as well, like seeing Sean Astin right off the bat as himself, just being like, yeah, with fans, I just like totally pretend that I'm Samwise Gamgee. And that's like, it's cool because that was like the positive side of conventions. Like, he genuinely likes going to conventions and meeting his fans, and like accepts the fact that he'll do other stuff, but he is Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah, like that is a role that you will always be known for, and that's perfectly fine. That's kind of a cool thing to be known for a role. Like,
it's like my dream.
Yeah.
Like, I was saying during some of the episodes that my idea of success in being like a character on film is to have an action figure made of my character.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for in my life.
Yeah. I assumed the show would have a lot more throwbacks to Firefly type of things, and it did have some, and I laughed at all of them, but yeah, it's not what I was expecting.
So, what's your star rating?
Oh god.
For Con Man? Or star-ish rating?
Yeah, like the highest I could give it would be a 2, and that's just because I was excited about all of the cameo people.
I would give it 10 poop emojis that aren't smiling, but they're crying.
Well, if you've seen Con Man, let us know what you thought about it down in the comments below. On the way down in the comment section, you can always hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I will have links to Monica's channel, which you should totally check out. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.
People need mobility devices, and it... Are you okay?
I was gonna say I didn't want to ruin your life.
Yeah, you're good.
Wait, I'm gonna say the...
There we go.
Okay, you should say that line all over again because it was such a good